Tesseract has awakened.
This isn't narration, but it's definitely narration. This staircase uses Batman symbol-shaped steps, and why are the steps floating in mid-air? And why do the last few steps have stalactites on them? Also, this incredibly convoluted staircase leads to, what, a Thanos phone? You gotta walk up all these goddamn steps just to talk on a phone?
Dr. Selvig read an energy surge from the Tesseract 4 hours ago.
NASA didn't authorize Selvig to go to test phase.
He wasn't testing it. He wasn't even in the room.
My question is, if Nick Fury came over here in a helicopter, how does he not already know this? Or do they talk like movie characters off-screen, too? Someone told him, you better get over here. You gotta come take a look at this on the phone, didn't they?
Evacuation may be futile.
We should tell them to go back to sleep?
If we can't control the Tesseract's energy, there may not be a minimum safe distance.
They were on the circle stairs, and now they're here, but the conversation didn't skip, which is a lie I wish movies would stop telling us.
I need you to make sure the Phase 2 prototypes are shipped out.
Especially Thor the Dark World. Ship it to the sun.
The Tesseract is misbehaving.
That's supposed to be funny?
At the beginning of this movie, the script has too many Nick Fury is in charge and is not to be trifled with lines. It doesn't seem to trust you know this, so Fury is always saying things to remind you of it. There are a number of explanations about how the Tesseract, aka the Space Stone, located in this dark energy place and not in his possession, somehow transports Loki here from space. Could be that he mind-manipulated Selvig to do experiments that would make it active. We did see him doing that in the credits of Thor. Could be something to do with the Mind Stone that Thanos gave Loki, and they're connected somehow. But this is something that deserves a clear-cut explanation, complete with a scene that shows you how Loki's portal works, and told in a rad fashion. Ah, that classic Marvel action scene. Such destruction. So many cuts and close-ups. So hard to follow. So he's bulletproof? The spear makes him bulletproof? Or are they just stormtrooper aiming?
He's right. The portal is collapsing in on itself. We've got maybe 2 minutes before this goes critical.
Well then.
Yeah, just try to kill Nick Fury rather than mind-controlling him. That should work out great. Also, Hawkeye, who is completely under the control of Loki, and is known for his sharpshooting, and his eyesight is what gives him his name, decides to shoot Fury in the body where he definitely has a bulletproof vest. Also, this is merely the first time the MCU will try and make you think Nick Fury is dead. Never fall for it. Never, ever fall for it. This is way more Fast and Furious 4 than I think they intended. I don't know exactly why Loki can't just use the spear and knock Maria Hill out of the way, but car chase! Oh, good. Just what I wanted to watch. Deleted scenes from the movie 2012. Gotta say, this is a really high place Fury is jumping from. The helicopter goes down with him and gives a sort of optical illusion that the jump is smaller than it is, but it's crazy he doesn't get the slightest bit hurt from this jump.
Coulson, get back to base.
This is a level 7.
Is that bad? The problem with dialogue like this is that it gives us zero context of the threat level scale. Is a 4 worse than a 7 or better? Does 7 represent some kind of threshold? Like anything 7 or over is serious? I'm wondering why this abandoned factory has a working chandelier on the 2nd floor. Is this the bad guy's regular hideout? And the only light source they could find was a chandelier? In terribly choreographed and edited action scenes like this, I often like to press pause and forward through the scene frame by frame. You see the usual shenanigans, like guys getting kicked or punched once and being so out of commission they can't help out until one of their colleagues is kicked or punched. And when Natasha headbutts this guy, only her hair hits his head. And we get a decent look at Scarlett Johansson's stunt double. That's really the only time I have fun with these fights.
We think so. I'll brief you on everything when you get back.
I sure am glad I pulled up this video of you and Barton kicking ass together. Doesn't do me much good, but you never know who's watching.
You brought me to the edge of the city. Smart. Yeah, I assume the whole place is surrounded.
Just you and me.
You forget how much time this movie takes futzing around before it gets going and gets good, but it's a lot.
It emits a gamma signature that's too weak for us to trace. There's no one that knows gamma radiation like you do.
So your equipment can't trace the gamma, but he knows gamma, so he's gonna sniff it? See it? Hear it? The board in charge of the Avengers initiative is filming staff meetings in vertical video. Also, they're using terrible lighting. Higher grip, people. You think shadowing your face will keep folks from knowing that you are Powers Booth and 3 other actors no one knows?
These people may be isolated, unbalanced even, but I believe with the right push, they can be exactly what we need.
You believe it? Well, why didn't you just say so? Maybe he's a gym rat, maybe he's just got pent-up energy, but from a purely technical standpoint, does Captain America need to work out? I think the serum made him super strong, and working out is just for fun, or for the viewers to remember how strong he is. I think it's hilarious that in the middle of Steve Rogers' angry punching bag moment, he thinks of some random spot in Captain America the First Avenger where he was running. Like, it makes sense if his extra sweaty punching workout was motivated by all the years he lost with Peggy, but random images of him in World War II?
Howard Stark fished that out of the ocean when he was looking for you.
Well, actually, some other asshole did. Howard was just on the search and rescue ship and was alerted to what that asshole found. It's not hard to say the search and rescue team found it, but thanks for the Howard Stark reference. It makes my Stark Tower explode.
There's a debriefing packet waiting for you back at your apartment.
We broke in to leave it there, but you're probably okay with that, right?
Sir, the telephone. I'm afraid my protocols are being overridden.
It should seriously upset Tony that anyone, even Agent Coulson, can so easily hack into Jarvis and basically break into Stark Tower.
Ms. Potts,
Got a second?
Did she just say half a mo? Damn, does this mean he can call up any image of a person on the internet and have sex with them? Yes, this is the first thing I think about regarding this 3D touchable hologram technology.
I watched you while you were sleeping.
You looked a lot like Peter Gallagher, but it was probably just the thawing process.
Aren't the stars and stripes a little old-fashioned?
It's what year again? 2012? Ha, just you wait, buddy. Just you wait.
People might just need a little old-fashioned.
I know I could go for a regular size one. Where's the bar?
But until I open the doors, until your force is mine to command, you have it words.
I'm still fuzzy on why Thanos and the Chitauri even need the Tesseract to open the doors of Earth. This seems to be a philosophy of Phase 1 Marvel stuff, that aliens can only enter Earth via portals. But after this movie, that completely goes away, aside from some Doctor Strange weirdness. The very idea of the helicarrier defies logic and physics. This thing has 4 rotors. It's a quadcopter drone that weighs 2.5 million pounds.
Shield Emergency Protocol 193.6 in effect.
Hot and sweaty, Jesus, that is a lot of emergency protocols. Nearly 200 at least, and broken down into decimal points? This is corporate over-redundancy at its absolute finest. So they can cloak the thing visually with camera tricks? Awesome. That won't stop radar, dude. This is like Harry thinking the invisibility cloak would allow him to physically bump into Snape and have it go unnoticed.
We're sweeping every wirelessly accessible camera on the planet. If it's connected to a satellite, it's eyes and ears for us.
It's just like the Dark Knight, only without the responsibility.
What did it show you, Agent Barton?
My next target.
Tell me what you need.
I need a distraction.
This is the lair. Why is he snap opening his bow here and now like he's just about to shoot an arrow? This is the most hilarious bullshit ever. This is like a judge asking a cop why he needs a warrant, and before he answers, the cop takes out his sidearm and chambers around, then returns the gun to the holster in response.
It's a vintage set. Took me a couple of years to collect them all.
Collecting trading cards. And this is only a sin because I spent all my youth collecting baseball cards because no one told us the market was massively oversaturated and even our valuable cards weren't all that valuable.
Kneel before me.
Loki steals the Zod from Superman 2. No one in the crowd even notices this Loki here, let alone bows down to him. Why would Loki's superpowers of projecting himself be glitching out? Does he use Comcast? Deus Ex Machina.
Kneel.
Is there any reason he's not mind-controlling Cap right now? He'd be a pretty good ally, right? Iron Man changes the PA to play AC/DC's Shoot to Thrill. First off, I'm sinning the very idea of a PA system override. Second off, Tony and S.H.I.E.L.D. can just hack goddamn anything, can't they?
Make your moves, reindeer games.
This is actually one of the only MCU pop culture references that actually lands. The sin is for all the ones that don't, like Squidward and Jackson Pollock. And yes, they made you laugh, and in that sense they landed. But in terms of making sense, no land.
What's the matter? Scared of a little lightning? I'm not overly fond of what follows.
Why is it necessarily Thor? Why can't it just be weather? Thor shows up now of all times. I'd like to know how he knew he was on this plane, but completely failed to find him earlier and waited until this moment to do it.
I've seen worlds you've never known about.
Iron Man jumped out of the plane maybe 25 seconds after Thor did, but this brother bother blather has gone on for nearly 3 minutes.
Listen well, brother.
Iron Man tackles Thor, and the momentum carries them far away from Loki. And maybe they guess he's going to stick around while they fight. After all, Loki did give himself up, but they don't know he's going to stay. So I don't know why Iron Man doesn't simply leave Thor and go back up to retrieve him. Also, if Loki's going to try and make this look good, shouldn't he be half-assing an escape attempt right now, just to stay in character? Also, I'm wondering, are these guys really trying to kill each other in this fight? It's hard to know, actually. It looks like they're doing some pretty devastating attacks. It's hard to tell if anybody could be considered a good guy if one of them dies here.
Power at 400% capacity.
How about that?
Nice. The Avengers is always at its most exciting when someone's powers enhance another superhero's powers. You know, this fight between Iron Man and Thor is cool and all, but when is Beautiful Joe gonna show up? Thus completes the second chapter of the villains who willingly surrender so they can go to jail because it's part of the planned trilogy. You loved it in The Dark Knight, and you'll love it again when Skyfall comes out later this year.
30,000 feet straight down in a steel trap.
It's the same thing that didn't kill Palpatine in Return of the Jedi.
That man is playing Galaga. Thought we wouldn't notice, but we did.
See, here's a reference joke everyone laughs at and moves on from that makes no sense. Why the would anyone on this main deck be playing Galaga? And how? Maybe someone is goofing off, but of all the games, and who ported it from arcade to Helicarrier OS? And who would risk doing this under the angry, watchful eye of Nick Fury?
How does Fury even see these?
He turns.
Sounds exhausting.
Wow, he's straight up just making fun of dude's disability. Tony Stark is an asshole. Also, S.H.I.E.L.D. can build impossible helicarriers, but doesn't have interior scanner sensors to find audio and video bugs, or people playing Galaga.
When did you become an expert in thermonuclear astrophysics?
last night.
Wow, so there's actually precedent for him figuring out time travel in a single evening in Endgame then. I mean, I get some people are smart, but just come out and say he has an eidetic memory and get on with it. Stop trying to suggest that he can learn entire disciplines of science in a few hours because of his advanced brain. Jesus.
Let's start with that stick of his. It may be magical, but it works an awful lot like a Hydra weapon.
I don't know about that, but it is powered by the cube.
I know you don't know about the Infinity Stones yet, but what exactly makes you think that Loki's spear is powered by the Tesseract? He showed up with a functional spear at the beginning of this movie. He used the spear in Germany, nowhere near the Tesseract. There simply isn't enough information to be this much of an asshole about the knowledge you think you have.
Jarvis has been running it since I hit the bridge. In a few hours, I'll know every dirty secret S.H.I.E.L.D. has ever tried to hide.
Except who killed my parents, and the fact that S.H.I.E.L.D. is Hydra now. Probably some other. Okay, so Steve obviously has the strength to open this door, but isn't an alarm going to go off? Why would they make it so that you need clearance to get through the door, but no alarm when it's breached?
As soon as Loki took the doctor, we moved Jane Foster.
Do you get paid for computer screen cameos? I don't think you do.
Agent Barton was sent to kill me. He made a different call.
I don't recall if this is ever explained, but I'd just like to know how company man Hawkeye decides to just not kill someone that his superior told him to kill, and why. And S.H.I.E.L.D. was okay with it. I feel like this has something to do with the power of boners, but I can't prove it.
You're a monster.
You brought the monster.
So, Banner. That's your play.
With very little prompt, Loki gives the game away about wanting to unleash the Hulk. I know he's arrogant, but this is a very iffy reason for him to blurt that out.
What is your haul over?
Arms to ammunition. Over.
I'll never understand in these movies like Godzilla King of the Monsters and Star Wars A New Hope when an unexpected ship is just allowed to enter an airspace for any reason. This helicarrier doesn't need any weapons. Tell him to go home. See, he only does that right before battle.
The turbine looks mostly intact, but it's impossible to get out there to make repairs while we're in the air.
I take it from what you just said that the bomb Clint used to disable this engine didn't actually blow up the engine. That was a huge explosion. What's frustrating about Romanoff's leg being stuck is that she knows Banner is hulking out, and she tries to escape, and finally does so at literally the last moment where she could run and maybe survive a chase. Coincidental leg trap? Convenient impediment? Coincidental impediment?
Get us over water. One more turbine goes down and we drop.
Stupid question maybe, but why do they need to stay in the air? Can't they just go to the water? This thing looked like a regular aircraft carrier before it turned into the helicarrier. Wouldn't it be best to land this thing in the ocean and figure out what to do next, rather than hope the engine gets repaired? At least start a descent.
Doc, I'm here!
He has no earpiece in, but whatever. I guess it could be super tiny, and everyone put them in after the lab explosion no one was expecting. I guess that's possible.
I need you to get to that engine control panel and tell me which relays are in overload position.
Blah, 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 blah. All right, Hulk versus Thor. We'll never see this again, but if we do, we'll have forgotten about it, and it'll seem like an awesome idea all over again. Like we're the dude in Memento.
Okay, the relays are intact!
Wait, did Steve become an expert electrician while we were away? The last time we saw him, he was looking at the panel and didn't seem to know what the to look for. Maybe Tony told him what he needed to look for, but unless there are pictures and I don't know how they solved that over the radio. Hulk's not worthy! Hulk's not worthy! So she says Hulk will wreck the helicarrier, and he says to get Hulk's attention, and she calls out,
Escort 6-0, proceed to Wishbone and engage hostile!
And I'm over here like, you had a fighter jet escort, or a few, and they are only just now being asked to do something? Also, why didn't that escort do something when the seemingly friendly ship fired an arrow bomb at the helicarrier? Murder. Look, I know Clint is like level 7 S.H.I.E.L.D. guy and all, but how did he remember the exact specifications of the helicarrier's ports to make this modified arrow that disables the computer system? The shot, I believe. The creation of the arrow and its abilities, not so much. Also, if this was the entire plan to breach the bridge so that he could make engine number 1 fail, why didn't he just blow that one up too? I mean, the people who operate this helicarrier gave zero about Clint's plane approaching it. He could have easily put charges on all the engines and blown up whatever he wanted. Clint misses badly from this distance. Yeah, sure, it's Natasha, and she's good at being elusive and but I'm not buying her missing one of Hawkeye's arrows. Don't worry, Thor. He'll be back in Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. like it never happened because of something called Project Tahiti that they never mention in the movies. Oddly, even though he's alive, he never shows up in the movies again until it's the 90s in Captain Marvel. It's the weirdest ever, Thor. The weirdest. Also, Joss gets a lot of credit for being willing to kill his characters, but he almost always goes with a marginal side character like Coulson, or Wash, or Willow's girlfriend, or Buffy's mom. Coulson was fun, and we all liked him, but he was fringe at best. Loki escapes, and I guess the now destroyed Escort 6 was literally the only escort jet we had? You can't have your escort jets and eat them too, damn it!
Guess he never did get you to sign them.
Christ, this manipulation's so egregious I have no doubt Coulson himself would disapprove. Nick Fury is a psychopath.
This is monsters and magic.
Oh, I love those guys, especially when they do little talks.
Great, but he knows he has to take us out to win, right? That's what he wants. He wants to beat us, he wants to be seen doing it. He wants an audience.
I've actually been wondering why Loki allowed himself to be captured and made the Avengers mad at him. And the reason the movie goes with is pure vanity. Loki doesn't have any history with the Avengers aside from his brother. And some of the Avengers he couldn't have even known would be there, like Thor and the Hulk. Sure, defeating them in front of an audience would be a huge feather in his cap, even though he underestimates them, but wouldn't they still show up to fight once the Chitauri began their attack? Was he worried that they wouldn't unless he made them mad? I feel like the whole plan was scripted so that the movie could have a big action scene on the helicarrier, and Loki's motivations don't make much sense.
It's a monument built to the skies with his name plastered. Son of a bitch.
Guy known for playing Sherlock Holmes has a Dr. House moment, which is funny because Dr. House was based on Sherlock Holmes, and now we have pop culture eating itself. Even if they helicoptered Selvig's equipment to the landing pad, how did they get all this up on the very top of the roof? None of this would have been particularly easy to get to the top. The restricted airspace in New York would have made it difficult to just hover a helicopter over the building. How the is this possible?
Those cards, they were in Coulson's locker, not in his jacket.
They needed the push.
Did they? Even so, you manipulated the memory and belongings of a recently dead patriot as a teaching moment. Tony Stark is an asshole, but Nick Fury is the devil.
What have I to fear?
The Avengers.
Roll credits. Okay, sure, we've seen this Mind Stone spear thing in action, and Loki's had to touch the heart of everybody he's enslaved. But I can't even believe that's the only way this works from mind control. And this stone has so much power, the idea that it has to be a rule for it to work is just silly. Loki, who has a giant spear that can kill Tony in a variety of ways, decides, nah, forget that. I'll let gravity decide this. We're both demigods with super weapons, but let's do fisticuffs. What exactly is the Chitauri's strategy here? Just jump into random buildings and kill office workers? I know they don't give a they're just fighting for Loki so that he'll give Thanos the Tesseract, but I don't know how this helps them take over the Earth. The ground war inside some tech firm doesn't get them closer to their goal. It might take them even farther away from it. How the did he know that was coming at this moment and time his roll to get on top of it? Then Natasha gets up and pew pew shoots towards something off screen that we never see die, and we're still left wondering how they hold this bridge. The Chitauri are supposedly good at fighting, right? Why are they so bad at it? And that's all we see of Natasha's shooting prowess. Here, shooting something off screen while Clit helps a bunch of bus passengers, and here again. We don't see their progress, but we assume because they're not dead, they're doing okay. Also, it's genuinely hard to understand why the Chitauri even bothered with the ground war when they have perfectly good ships to destroy buildings and devastate the enemy from the air. Look at all these cops firing all their guns up into the air in skyscraper central New York City. How many office workers died today because they were watching the alien invasion out their window and got clipped by friendly fire? I really can't overstate how the Chitauri are. They're so awful it's worth 20 cents. More like Chitauri, am I right? Nice of the Chitauri to completely ignore this spot in New York for this reunion. It's darn near quiet, actually.
That's my secret, Captain. I'm always angry.
One of the best lines in the movie, but there's no way anyone heard that with the giant space bug centipede literally yards away from you and coming in hot. Angry about it? Well, stop sucking then. This will never not be funny. I can't let this gun-loading thing go. I guess it helps in a Horton gets shot by a Who sort of way, but it really is nothing compared to the might we see in this hero shot. Hulk, Thor, Glock, Captain America.
Smash.
And by that I mean be as destructive to New York as possible when murdering single Chitauri warriors. Also, I don't understand what changed in the last half hour that Hulk went from can't control the rage and tries to kill his own teammates to can suddenly control the rage and only fight the bad guys and also understand English commands. Jesus, Hulk alone should have been responsible for the Sokovia Accords. Maybe Sokovia wouldn't have happened if there had been a Manhattan Accords. What? How fast is this thing going? Way too fast for her to do that jump and somehow move forward in position relative to the ship. This is all one take. Sure, much of it is CGI, but it's one long, fluid take. By the Age of Ultron, we're doing individual glamour shot punches and fights cut to hell like no one was on set the same day, but credit where it's due here. The one-shotness of it really adds to the sense of scope and understanding the playing field. But also, I get the distinct sense that if this really happened, even with the Avengers evening this out, the Chitauri would be destroying so much that the individual battles this camera shot picks up would be but a small part of the war being fought. Yeah, the Avengers are doing well in the spots they pick to fight, but if you see in Central Park, it's in flames. Time Warner Building? It got eaten! What's keeping them from killing all these people? Love? I don't understand the battle strategy of these at all. I guess I'm supposed to care about this one civilian because she's played by Ashley Johnson of Growing Pains fame, and that's cool if you know who she is, I guess, but why is she any more special than the millions who are running around right now?
If we don't hold them here, we lose everything.
You don't know that. Look, I know everyone's still processing that aliens exist, but there's no reason to just assume the army coming through the portal is infinite. Oh, it blew him straight to Stark Tower. That's some pretty convenient right there, considering the plot requires his scepter to close the portal. Bye.
built in a safety to cut their power source.
You know, while I was under Loki's mind control powers, usual fail-safe in case I turn good again.
Anyone on the deck? We have a rogue bird. We need to shut it down.
Oh, sure, but when evil Hawkeye needs clearance for his jet to get on the helicarrier, nobody asks one goddamn question. Also, apparently, the room with the rocket launchers was on the way from the bridge to the deck because Fury picked one up in time to stop this jet from taking off. Glad they have those things next to the fire extinguishers now. So, how many in New York? 11 million or so. How many in danger now? Couple 100,000. Nuke it. Nuke the whole damn thing. During this shot, you can't hear it, but the subtitles note that the reporter is saying, and I have to say, in all my years of reporting, I have never seen anything like this. And I really want to fire that reporter right now because no why does this have to be a one-way trip like Cap said? Why can't Tony just let go of the missile and not go through the portal? Remember, they can close the portal. All Tony needs to do is get rid of the nuke. He doesn't have to ride it through and point it at the enemy. There's no gravity in space. Wait, this is my chance to correct this. There is gravity in space, but only in as much as you are near a planet, moon, star, or black hole. Tony falls back away from the Chitauri vessel on the other end of space as though Earth's gravity is so strong it's pulling him back through the portal. But in reality, he came through the portal with some amount of speed, and he would have continued on that path basically forever. He would have flown into the explosion the missile caused, not the opposite direction. Also, thankfully for humans, the Chitauri went to the Independence Day school of take out the mothership and the rest will all die ship design. There's another few hundred dead civilians. Man, remember how everyone gave Man of Steel for all the casualties?
Superheroes in New York? Give me a break.
I don't care that it's Stan Lee, I just care that they gave him such a stupid line to say.
And the Tesseract?
Tesseract is where it belongs.
We won't ask you about that other stone that Loki used on his scepter. That won't be important until some crazy time travel bull happens in Endgame. Besides, we sent Robert Redford to retrieve it. Yeah, the Robert Redford.
They're dangerous.
They surely are. And the whole world knows it. Every world knows it.
No. Why would every world know about this battle on Earth? Space is big, dude. Like, super big.
To challenge them is to court death.
Thanos, circa 2012, wanted to court death. Then it was all about cutting the population into halvesies. Ah, memories.
And I will strike down upon thee with great vengeance and furious anger.
And the humans, what can they do but burn?
We eat the pig and then together we burn! Burn!
Hi, Joker.
You ever been in a war, Councilman? In a firefight?
Have you ever met Captain Ramius, General?
If the Tesseract is kept from us, there will be no realm, no barren moon. There will be no dawn for men. You think you know pain?
Try prison.
It's Barton. He took out our systems. He's headed for the detention level.
Shut down all the garbage mashers on the detention level, will ya?
You're a spy, not a soldier.
I'm a surgeon, not a psychiatrist.
Turn off the Tesseract or I'll destroy it.
You can't. There is no stopping it.
There is no Dana, only soul.
We won.
Bonjour, everyone. Don't worry, everything is boom. We stopped the terrorists.